Welcome back to CN Caribbean News. It's now time to go in depth to answer the question, is Trinidad and Tobago's economy on the verge of collapse? The plunging price of oil has had a damaging effect on the state of the economy of Trinidad and Tobago, and so too has the shortage of foreign exchange currency, which since last year has been a thorn in the side of manufacturers and several other businesses. Additionally, several companies have been announcing massive job cuts, the most severe of which is international steel giant ArcelorMittal, which is closing down its operations in Trinidad and Tobago, sending thousands of employees to the breadline. And as if those weren't enough, following the deportation of several Jamaicans recently, there have been calls for Jamaica, which is a major importer of Trinidad and Tobago products, to boycott that arrangement. The Trinidad and Tobago government is scrambling for solutions to its looming economic crisis, announcing only Friday an increase by 15% in the prices of super gasoline and diesel, and this follows increases in the percentage of the value-added tax. Can Trinidad and Tobago save its ailing economic situation? We've been joined by Subhas Ramkhelawan, economist and managing director of Bourse Securities Limited, and who once served as the governor of the Trinidad and Tobago Central Bank. Welcome to In Depth, Mr. Ramkhelawan.
Thank you. And let me just correct you. I've never been the governor of the Central Bank. I was an independent senator in the Parliament of Trinidad and Tobago.
Thank you very much for that, sir. Now, Mr. Ramkhelawan, taking into consideration everything that has been happening with damaging effects on the economy of the country, is the economy of Trinidad and Tobago in a recession?
Well, the answer to that is yes, that we are in a recession, because it was recently announced that in 2015, the calendar year 2015, we had 4 quarters of decline, and that is expected to continue in 2016, where in each year the decline is expected to be 2%. So I think we are firmly in a recession, yes.
So you do agree then with the central bank predicting that the economy will continue to contract? By GDP is expected to contract roughly 2%, and the year-on-year inflation is forecast to settle around the country's 10-year average of 6%.
Yes, at the very least, inflation is going to be in the vicinity of 6% or even above, for the reason that we do have an escalation in cost caused by, one, the introduction in VAT to a wide array of food items, and the introduction or the removal of subsidies for gasoline, both in terms of super gasoline and diesel, by about 32% in each case. So you are going to get the food indicators up, and you are going to get the energy prices up. So you are going to have a fair bit of inflation and a reduction in disposable income.
Businesses continue to complain of the unavailability of foreign exchange in the country. Is that situation likely to get better within the financial quarter?
I don't think that we are going to see much improvement, because this situation has been pervasive for some time, for more than a year. And what is actually happening is that there is a reduction in terms of the allocations, or in terms of the issuance by the central bank of hard currency into the system. And therefore, with a reduction in the flows into the system by the central bank, which is the main provider of currency, then what you're going to find is that the situation is likely to tighten. And whereas the reasoning for it tightening is because there is a deterioration in confidence in the economy, and some would argue that this has led to a situation of some capital flight, as well as some hoarding of the currency.
Now, an economist has hailed the 15% increase in super gasoline and diesel as a good move, which is long overdue. Do you agree?
Well, I don't think that we could have continued to live on subsidized fuel, especially since our income as a nation is falling because of the lower oil and gas prices. So we certainly do have to move away from a highly subsidized society and move more closely to a market-run economy. And therefore, in that sense, it's going to be painful because of the adjustments that will be required. but in the sense of getting the economy more on a market-related footing, it is essentially a required move.
Now, are there any repercussions noticeable at this time from the decreasing spending power of the people of Trinidad and Tobago, given so many persons have lost their jobs?
Well, we've seen increasing job losses, especially as the economy is in decline, both in the energy sector as well as the non-energy sector. So there is the increase in unemployment on the one hand, but if you are talking about any stresses and strains in terms of the stability of the society, that hasn't happened. At least we haven't seen any signs of that in terms of on the street protests and so on at this point in time.
Now, Jamaican businesses have threatened to boycott their business with Trinidad and Tobago following the deportation of several of its citizens from the Republic recently. If they follow through on that threat, what effects would it likely have on the Trinidad and Tobago economy?
Well, I think the significant impact on the economy is really the fall in the price of oil and gas, because those are really our main exports. 90% of our export income comes from, or hard currency comes from the export of oil and gas. So the exportation of other products and services that are non-oil or gas is small, particularly if you speak in terms of manufactured goods and so on. So I don't think that it is going to have a very significant impact, but at the end of the day, we have excellent relationships with importers in Jamaica, and we would want to hope that that would continue, despite some of the challenges in terms of the immigration front.
Mr. Ramkhelawan, how does Trinidad and Tobago begin to fix the issues that it's having with its economy right now?
Well, the first is to get some sort of stabilization, albeit at a lower level. And that will have to come in terms of government trying to get some balance in its expenditure revenue configuration. In that sense, what is happening is there is a cutback in expenditure on the one hand, and there are measures to increase revenue or reduce the level of subsidization. That is expected to close the gap, but it cannot be a solution for the medium term. It is some sort of bridging, if you want to call it that, some sort of bridging to close the gap that exists in the short term. And beyond this, we have to find ways to diversify, and that has been a conversation that has been taking place for a long time. And I believe that the future may lie in the reconfiguration or the rebalancing to which we put our natural gas. What is the best balance in terms of generating income for the country? What is the best balance between LNG and methanol and ammonia and other outputs that we have? Because it's going to take a long time before we can actually increase volume structurally in terms of the gas and oil sector. In the gas sector in particular, companies are now embarking on new exploration. And the lead time for that, or should I say the lag time, could be as much as 8 years from having acreages for exploration to the point when you actually commercialize what you have found out there. So there is a structural issue on the one hand. The good thing for us is that the situation is not similar to what happened the last time where we did not have buffers. We do have some buffer in our Heritage and Stabilization Fund, which is a sovereign wealth fund. We do have some buffers in terms of other areas where, in terms of the disposal of certain state assets or loans by the state to players who would have to provide some returns in terms of assets. So there are buffers. These buffers will not last for an extended period of time, but certainly over the next 2 years or so, we do have clothes on our back and we do have some cushion to be able to weather the storm in the short term over the next 1 or 2 years.
Thank you very much for speaking with us, Mr. Ramkhelawan.
And thank you so much.